Alright, this video is for IT36 modeling. I'm just going to jump over to where we are. So here was spring break. I asked you to do your sprint 2 deliverables. About half you didn't deliver. You got to come see me about that. Each sprint's like 25% of your grade. So if you're stuck, please, I make myself available with lab time, emails, web conferencing. Like, we can find a way. So in either case, here we are in that first week. I had to deal with a lot of troubleshooting of people's issues, but I think I got everybody back on the same page in that class. I didn't get to do any lecturing I really wanted to, but I did adjust sprint 3 and 4. I sent an email out a day or two ago. So sprint 3, I want like everything textured, your room, your architecture features, all your props, all your large props. I said like half your medium props. So I kind of pulled back just a little bit, and so for example, half the medium props where they might get a little bit more annoying or slow you down, we can hold off on that to sprint 4. But I expect your level, your rooms to go through a process I'm about to show you. Your architecture features, your stairs, your railings, your doorways, doors, anything, columns, and then your large props, and half your medium. So here's sprint 3 ending. So we got 1 week. We're currently in the week. Second week, third week, drop. Then we start sprint 4. We have 1 week, 2 week, 3 week. Looks like we don't have classes the last week of class, and then I have deliverables way down here. So maybe I can push sprint 3 another week. It looks like we get 4 weeks out of that, 4 weeks out of sprint 4. I'll make that decision by Tuesday. But in either case, I did go over like the interactivity and the animation topics that we will cover. So sprint 4 will involve, okay, let's finish up texturing the medium props, maybe go back, clean some stuff up since you're a little bit better with UV and texturing. And then we'll go over a bunch of animation topics to at least make some of your level interactable and learn about how to create animators and connect different animations and how to transition between them and what can you animate. So we had the rest of this semester planned out. And then right now we do have our final on May 14, 2:30 in the lab room. We'll do a final presentation, again, your WebGL build plus Sketchfab models. So I'll go into that. But in this lecture video, I just built this computer console real quick, just following a short Forge video. And it was interesting workflow. I'm going to go over this connection with ProBuilder to ShoreForge. And it can be any model. If you export out FBX out of uModeler or you're getting your models out of Blender or whatever, at the end of the day, you have OBJ or FBX model files that you can go directly to ShoreForge, or you can flush them through ProBuilder, which I'm gonna do this because it seems like a really quick, interesting way to get texturing on simple, room and architecture features. So, for example, this console, as you can see, the geometry is really simple. And I can go back and forth really quickly with this workflow. I'll show you. But you see, at the end of the day, here this is Sketchfab. This is not Unity. This is a website. And this is how 3D people show off their models and their animations now. So I'm going to show you how to use this website. And while I'm on Sketchfab, anyway, these are the exporters. You can get this exporter right out of Unity. It looks like this, and later on I'll show you how to set this up. I just did a manual process. I just got my FBX file out and my texture images out, and I connected it all together. But this is Sketchfab. So if I click on one, say, sure, Mars rover. All right, loading up the 3D model. Here's the model. Sounds like there's a little bit of sound effect on it. I'm going to turn that off. So it looks like you can add loopable sounds, and you can do animations as well. But in this case, it's just a modeling class. But notice how I can kind of look at the model, zoom in and out, just like as I would in Unity or Blender 3D package. So I'm going to require for your final drops to get a few of your best pieces up on Sketchfab to show you how the portfolio process works. But in any case, I'll put these links up. I'm back on the SureForge website, and I went through just this video. It's a 6-minute video, 6.5 minute. Just build something really quickly in Pro Builder and write in a SureForge scene and just texture it. So I'm going to assign this and just doing this door here. Let me just click it. It's a 10-minute video. It's kind of to get you just up and moving in SureForge. So in this one, we just have a basic door geometry. It's probably just a cube. You just grab a cube, a Unity cube, or make it UModeler or Pro Builder. And how you're starting to like all this detail in this door is just coming from this texturing workflow. So anyway, working on a cube are very simple room architecture features. They're very primitive shaped. They're very cube-esque. And they're very easy to deal with UVing wise, and then we'll move on to the harder props. Maybe this axe or this spaceship, and we can look at in this low poly building, and start to move down into those large props, those medium props that are more complicated geometry wise, and how to deal with this more complicated UVing and texturing scenario. But for now, if I just go back into Unity, here's the console I made, and I built it, modeled it, UV'd it, and textured it all in the same scene. And then from here, I FBX'd it out, and here's all the texture files. And with the FBX file, if I go to assets, yeah, this was the FBX file I export out. Here's all the texture files. All these files just go over the Sketchfab. Or, you can reuse them, obviously, in Unity in building your scene. But this all comes out of SureForge, and this is all usable in any real-time environment like Sketchfab or Unity. So, at any case, you end up with an OBJ file, an FBX file, going through Pro Builder or UModeler. And you can connect it up to SureForge here. The really cool thing is, if I zoom out, you can see what I was texturing on this console. I'm just going to save it, and so I can open it later in class. I'm going to close this. This was a UModeler window. It's going to complicate things. I'm just going to say File, New Scene. I'm going to flush this all out. This is what it looks like. Right now, I just have Pro Builder, Pro Goods turned on, and I have SureForge turned on. And I'm going to show you how to just do a quick model. And so you're modeling, UVing, and texturing all in one scene, really lightweight. And then if you do like a modular piece of the wall, modular piece of the floor, or some console or stairs or something, you can get a good looking textured object, and then just export it out, FBX it out, make it a prefab, whatever, get it over into your main level scene and start duplicating and placing it around. So here we are, we're in SureForge. This is an empty, so let's see if it's still recording. Yep. Just an empty texturing scene. I'm going to get out of ISO mode. Here's perspective. This is what it should be defaulting to you. So I just opened up SureForge and clicked on new specular workflow. And I opened up just Pro Builder here. This is a Pro Builder window. And open up Pro Grids. So you have Pro Builder, Pro Grids, and SureForge. So I'm just going to click New Shape, click Cube. That's great. I'm going to reset its position so it's at world space 0. I'm just going to move it over here. I'm going to close the Shape tool. We don't need it anymore. Press the F key, go into face mode, click on this face, shift to extrude it out. I'm going to turn the grids back on so that we see the grids because we're working there. I'm going to extrude out once more. Take these two top faces, extrude them out. Take this whole side, extrude it out, and then go into edge mode. Click these two edges and extrude them over. this was the essence of the console in that 6-minute video I'll put up. But in any case, this is a very light model. This is more of an architecture or a prototype, something really low res. So this is why this is a good introduction to you. At any case, the model is complete. And again, you can just bring in an FBX file. But I think this is a great workflow that a lot of you are going to be able to kind of get caught up and make a lot of stuff quickly on the architecture feature room level. So anyway, let's say that this is complete. I'm going to make a computer console out of it. Maybe I'll just bring it in right next to it. And you can see what the end result looks like. Its pivot's definitely not centered up. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to end up with something like this. All right. Let me check its material. Let's see, I put everything in this folder, textures, yeah, console. Okay, there we go. So I just reapplied the material to get, that full shiny aspect to it. Looks like these two parts looks like they're two meshes. Oh well, you can combine them later if you want to. But anyway, you're going to end up with something like this in this workflow. So this is all the geometry looks like at this point. Very rough. Kind of low poly look, but with all this kind of high detail texturing on it, it actually looks like a more elaborate object. So I'm just going to delete this out. So here we are. It's been modeled. No UVs, no textures, right? So we can go to the UV editor and open this up and go to face mode. And then I'm going to think about which areas I want to keep together. So this whole front part I wanted to keep together. So if you go to convert to manual, and instead of doing auto UVs, do the manual UV mode, which is more like that kind of QUV editor. Gives you, it's more of a complicated, or you get more hands, more deeper level of control in your UVs. But again, this is a UV editor that's available in Pro Builder, which the UV editor in UModeler is very similar, and the QUV editor is similar but has a lot more features to it. I'm just showing you a very, very simplified workflow of a simple object with simple UVs, and then you can go more elaborate on the textures, and we're all within SureForge. So I want to show you a simple geo, simple UVing, do some cool texturing on it, and export it, and you have a finished, nice object that you can start to, duplicate out and make like an architectural feature or a large prop really fast. So in any case, this is the front part of the console. If I just click on this face, control click on that face, see it says auto stitch. So these are separate little UV sections or islands, shells, whatever every UV tool kind of has different nomenclature. But I just held down control and I kind of sewed these two faces together. So if I click select face, notice now like both are selected. So if I go on to another one, I have to select them all and say convert to manual. So you have to select all the UVs. Now they're all in manual mode, meaning giving you more editing features. I select island over here. Note they're all by themselves. They're not stitched together. But if I start to go to this one and say select island, we have two faces. Great, let's move on. Let's control click this one, and that one. I want this whole front face together. So if I select island, now we got this bottom one. That's good. I'm just going to move them down. Select island. I'm just going to move this down, and I'm going to try selecting them all in welding. And let me see if select island. Yep, now it's one big island. I'm going to go over here, control, select together, auto stitch. Auto stitch means just a welding basically. So if I select the island, this is the top part of it. I'm going to move it down really close where that edge overlaps. Select everything and weld And once I weld, it should be select island. Yep, there's one big. So this whole front part from the top up here to this angled area to this front bottom is all one big UV area. Perfect. Let's move to this side. This is rather easy. Just one, hold down control, the other, control, the other, control the other. So it did that auto stitch. If I select the island, now it's all moving together. Great. Sewn together. So if the faces are like right next to each other, if you hold down control, like the auto stitch will work. Otherwise, you have to move them close to each other and do this welding. But in either case, the end result's the same. So let's do the back. First face, control next, control next, control next, control next. Select island. Now we have the back, the bottom. I'm just holding control. Select the island. That's good. And I think the only thing that's left is this whole area. So 1, 2. That was an auto stitch. Select the island. Looks like they don't have UVs. Let me move on. That's it. And do the others. Control. Select island. That's good. Control. Select island. That's good. And then looks like this one and this one. There's no UVs here. So I'm just going to select this one and this one and just do a planar. Do a planar on this one. Oop. Looks like I hit an error. Destroying asset not permitted. Something broke. Just noticed my UVs got destroyed. Let me take a look. Alright. Unfortunately, looks like they got destroyed, but there's a quick process. I'll just do it over again. I just don't have to explain to you what I'm doing, because I just did it. Select island, move it down. Looks like they have to be scaled down a little bit. I'm just going to go into edge mode, move that. Looks like the unwrapping made him really large. And I'm just scaling these down so that they fit. There we go. I'm gonna go into edge mode, select these two, and well, I'm gonna open up this max distance because they're a little farther apart. There we go. Weld, weld. All right. So now we have our top part again. Let's just move around. Go into face mode. Select 1, 2, 3, 4. Select island. That's good. And I'm looking at this cube to this one, and this one's a little bit smaller. I'm just going to scale it up a little bit so that they're uniform. There you go. Alright, let's move to the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Select the island. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. I'm just pulling them away from each other. That's the bottom here. The middle. This one, I'm gonna planar it. Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go into 3D. I'm just gonna select all the vertices. If this little triangle's a little goofy, I think I'm just gonna weld the verts. Welded 3 verts. All right. Let me see if that. So I think this triangle is having issues in the UV mode. I just felt like its geometry is a little funky. So let me try planar again. Okay, there it is. There's my triangle. I don't know just how I diagnosed that. There was something wrong. I know exactly what, and it just the UVs would not come out on this little triangle. So I just know that sometimes if you select all the vertices and you do that weld vertex, any vertices are like lying right on top of each other but not connected, and as you saw there were 3. So whatever, that was the issue. Select those, weld that up. So I got this top piece. I'm going to move this down, alright? So this is the top, here's the bottom, and then we have this middle part. So if I select the 2 of them and rotate and hold the control key, you can rotate 90 perfectly. I'm just going to bring it and just align it. And I'm just going to take this one and align it. And it's not perfect tools. Again, it's Pro Builder. It's kind of a simpler UVing set, but I'm dealing with a simple object. So I'm going to weld up that whole center part. This was welding UVs, so note there's a difference between welding UVs and welding vertices. UVs are in the 2D space, vertices are in the 3D space. So I'm going to select one, select island just to check. Yep, everything's great. Okay, so I have my parts, right? Make sure they're really easy to understand. For example, this is the front console place. This should be like, this is my center area, right? And this is the left side. This is the back. This is the bottom. And this is the other side. So one thing I noticed that, okay, the bottom is the bottom of the object. I'm never really going to see the bottom, so I know that I kind of scaled it down a little bit because I know that it can just fill in a space somewhere. So I'm not really worried about amazing quality textures on the bottom. So now my goal is I want to orient this so that it kind of fits within a square. So let's see. If I use this top left point to start, I'm just kind of moving them around. I'm trying to find a situation where I can make them fit into a square. And the other one actually works really well. So this kind of is very close to a square. And the main reason that really helped out is because I scaled this down again because it's the bottom. And I'm not sure if the back, will ever be seen, so I'll leave it at full scale. But once you have your UVs in a nice little square area, just say fit UVs, and it'll pop it in our 0 to 1 space. And then if you want to, you can do further adjustments. So let's see, I'm going to go in here, just move him up into the corner. Select this one, move this one over to there. Select the island. Looks like that one didn't come along for the ride, but I don't need it to be a full island right now. Double click to select the whole island. And it looks like this one, let me just rotate it 90. I can fit it in this little area better. Boom. Nice. So the only area that's kind of close, these two they're getting a little bit, this little area is a little close, so I'll just move him down a little bit. Move him up. And there, if I zoom out, everything is not like right on the border. There's a little bit of edging. And every major area has a little bit of gap or edging around it. So we're in a good UV space. I'm going to close the UVs. Again, here's Pro Builder, Pro Grids, and that was the UV editor from Pro Builder, and I just closed it. It's available there. And here we are in ShoreForge. All right, so let's say we're done with the model. Now, if you click on the mesh here, it should come up. It's supposed to link to this one here. Didn't show up, but all right, if you click, oh, there you go. If I click, here's my finished little object. It still happens to be as a Pro Builder, but again, if you export and bring it in, it's the same situation as I'm just trying to find the mesh. And then you actually connect the mesh to the renderer here. And here, if I zoom out, here's the UVs of what I just made. So within the same scene I was working, I just did my geo building, my modeling. I just did my UVing really quick, and I connected it here to the ShoreForge in the render window. And here's the UVs of it. So let me turn off ProGrid's viewing, because now we have like grids on grids. It's all weird looking. Here's my working space. So if, I'm not sure if I think I'm oriented 90 degrees. So I have to flip it, because this was it. This is the whole front of the console. Here's the little bottom area. Here's one side, another side. Is the back, and here's the two sides. So I'm going to go into top-down view, and I'm also going to go into get out of perspective and into isometric. It's going to be easier to work in this area in an isometric view without the perspective distortion. So we just zoomed through really fast the geo building, the modeling phase, the UVing phase. Now we're straight into texturing phase, all in the same scene. So first step, I'll leave the Pro Builder window. Yeah, I guess at this point you don't need it. You can close it, just so that I make it very sure that I'm now out of the modeling and UVing phase. All right. So next step, initial placement of these ShoreForge objects. So I guess first off I'll save it, just in case it crashes. So I have this console textured. I'll just say console textured 02. And now we can start placing stuff down. So the bottom's the easiest because just needs something, anything. I guess can just get this here. It's like edging the blue material. Now I'll just get like a regular panel with some bolts on it. Double click. There it is. Press the space bar. And there it is. Let me turn on the action so you can see it shows what I'm pressing. So I press the space bar, render. So one thing to note is this thing I built. Let me jump out of perspective. Notice when I jump out of perspective, like our line here, the UV line is kind of offset from what I placed down. That's just dealing with the perspective distortion. When I get rid of it, it lines up nicely. That's why I'm in isometric. So notice that this texturing object by default is like bigger than our UV space. So you can shrink it if you want to. Notice as I shrink it, like all this beveled area comes into my texturing space. I press space bar, then there's that beveling area. So if you wish to have it, you shrink or expand it. And you can even later on go back to something. So I can go back to it and say, no, expand it up a little bit or do whatever. Press the space bar to render it. So that's the easiest. That was just slapping something on the bottom. In fact, the back is something different. I'll double click. Here's the back. Press space bar. I'll shrink it down a little bit so I get that beveling. Zoom into it a little bit. Shrink it down. Press space bar. There we go. At least there's something on the back. I don't know if you ever see it. Now you can notice the size of the texture. You notice how these bolts are much larger, and you got more aliasing going on them, and that's because the texture space is smaller down there. But that's fine. I'm never going to see it. So let's move on. Maybe this side area is easier to deal with. I'll double click there. I'll place something down. Let's say, no, I don't want that. Let's click over to, I don't know, this blue thing here. Let me just make sure I didn't, let me delete that. I think I put one down on top of the other. Let me just select this one and then show you if you click around, you can, there's a way to switch the profile easily. Forget the hotkey for it. Oh well. The class next week I'll figure out what the hotkey was to quickly switch around. We just delete. Let's say I want this one, some outer edging and some inner part, and then I can shrink it down. And render it. Alright, so it looks like this on the side. If you want to, you can select it, press the escape key, jump out, click through until I get the center area to it. You can click through these if you don't know which is which. So this one turns the whole one off, but if I go down, this is like the center part of it. These are all the separate parts on the sides. But for example, I want to click and make sure that I have the center area selected when I press like the 5 key or whatever key to swap out that material. And then you can have it be its own separate material channel. I think it was like 7. And then jump over to materials and pick one. So let's say we want it to look like hazardous. We can continue working on the side if we care to. We can go over to like details and say, okay, not only is it hazardous, but it's got like a big biohazard thing on it. Click on that one. Press the space bar. And you can change up what you want on it. Put a little cube for unity, and so on. So these are details, and you can scale them. Let me delete that one actually. You can select it and then hold down to rotate, and I think it's shift, control to iterate its rotation on like 15 degrees, or release, control, and just have shift for a natural continuous scaling and placement. Let's say I want something like that. Press spacebar, escape key to get a tool. You can even place it more. You can even select it as a 3D object, and you can scale it or position it. Press the spacebar to update, and so on. So let's say we're done with the bottom, the back, done with the side here. These are the this is the major area over here anyway. So we have this side part here. I'll go back to just adding these initial parts. And I will switch over to, let's say maybe a grading should be down here. So I'll maybe select this one. I'm going to double click, and notice it only selected this square, so if I press the space bar, it looks like that. But say you wanted it to go across the whole thing. Notice these red lines here, these divide up the UV little sections, and this section is too small, right? So if I get rid of that, say I still have polylasso selected, you can actually just draw and it'll snap to the little parts, little corners of your UV, and say, nope, that's what I want. Then I want to shrink it down so I can actually see those beveled edges. Press the space bar, get something like that. That's good. I also found it useful. I'm going to delete that. And sometimes I want to divide up a section to 2. So for example, have these slices on only half of that down part, like that. Shrink it down, and then put something else. Maybe this one here. Shrink you down. Press the space bar. So actually I'm going to delete this one, and I think this one's meant to, you can divide up a little bit. You can go like this and make little sections. Now the cool thing, let me delete those and show you that you don't need to go through all that division. If you did want that thing anyway, I'm going to switch to one that's got, I'm going to try this one, it's got a little bevel part of it. Shrink him down. You can say you really like that, but you want to kind of cut it up a little bit. I found that this decal shatter here, notice it, you click it, it kind of does a random, it finds random points and cuts it. Then you can pick another one. And you can shatter it more than once, a few times, but you know, I'm just trying to get cool like slices into it. I'm not trying to make it look fully shattered. So I'll just select like one more shattering and click it, shatter on this part. So let me zoom in. Let me open up. Oop, I may have crashed. I'll just give it a few seconds. I may have shattered on top of shattered or something. If it does crash, then you know at least I got to laying out the UVs, and I'll just reopen it real quick. But you notice how it was really fast to start laying out parts of this in the texture space. So I saw some of you put one material on your whole room, you know, and if you bring in a wall at a time, that's actually really cool how that came out. I mean, that took a while of running. That was like 20 seconds or something. But if I do, yep, everything's interactable now. Good. Press the space bar, and you get something like that. That's really cool. But notice I could actually go in here and select these inner. Notice I have to make sure it's the child here. Select that and just put some materials on it. Nope, not that one. There we go. Go. I'm just pressing the one key to make it go back to another texture. I'm going to put another random one on that one. Cool. But now that they're assigned another material, I can actually go in and say like, oh, maybe these should be that, and maybe this should be. Looks like I didn't. Let me see if I select that one and press 6. Give it a different texture. Give it that. So I mean that's super cool to get something like that going really fast. I'm gonna save it because I almost crashed it there and haven't been saving. So I can continue on. I'll just select some more of the basic elements for this part. But you know, it's really up to you to design or build whatever you want. I'm just showing you that these tools, once you get used to them, they're really fast to work with. And maybe I'll try some nuts and some paneling with nuts and bolts on. Oops, backspace. There we go. Shrink it. Spacebar. Perfect. Then we just have the big console, and for that I just did very similar things. I see, put like a grading down here. Shrink it, and I put just a basic. Let's see, just a basic panel on this top part. Then I just put some decals on it. So if I shrink that down, so there will be some overlap. This looks like it's if I press a space bar. If I move the sun with, I think it's shift, yeah, shift, and left click to move the sun to the front of it. Seeing if this is bleeding over in the UVs. If I make it a little bigger, I'm not seeing this. Oops. If I expand it up, I just want to show you, look how it's going to come down into the grates and up over if I press space. Since I made my UVs seamless, the textures do spill over on top of each other. So that's good. And I just did some like quick decals and slapped them on. Maybe it was like, I think it was this one here. No, it was this one, the blue. So again, hold Shift and Control. I want it definitely angled straight up, but I need to scale it down. There you go. And when you place it, just gonna place a few of them, and yeah, sure, I'll place like a really long one and just scale it. There we go. For Spacebar, you know, now you have a whole bunch of buttons and gizmos, and you can change textures on it how you care fit, how you see fit. And let's see, just gonna place down something up here. Shrink it, and maybe I'll show you the greebles one more time. Press Spacebar, and I'm going to go over to greebles, and if you move this space where you want to spawn them, I'm going to kind of just spawn them within this area I just made, within this area. And you pick the kind you want. Maybe these look cool, and click Grow. Let's see. Oh, there's a depth to it. Okay. Then you move the whole thing up. Maybe they're growing. Oh, they're creating a bunch of stuff. There they are. Are they really low? Yeah. Alright, for some reason they were spawned a little low. I'm just going to take them and move them up. There we go. Press Spacebar. So greebles are just a bunch of random cool little objects. So that looks good. And I'll just quickly put just little nut and bolts on the top. Shrink that down, and I'm not in ISO mode. Let me look at it straight down. Spacebar. There we go. So I am done. File, save scene. Now a few things. Say I'm done. This is amazing. This is exactly what I wanted. If I zoom in, it looks a little chunky, a little aliased. So the res needs to, let's pop the res up a little bit from 1000, from 1K to 2K. Pop aliasing, anti-aliasing up 2K, and I'm going to re-render it. So there, notice it's cleaner. So I've noticed on an asset this size, about 2K is good. And then clean up the aliasing a little bit. All right, we're really happy. Then we export the maps. I'll go into textures, and I'll say console. You have to name the header of all these texture files something. I'll say console 02. I'll let them render out. All right, I'm really good, really happy. Underneath textures here, here's console 02. I'm going to press the F key. This was my initial model, and I'm just going to apply the texture on it. One thing I did note is that when you get a lot of this, it's the a lot of this etching, this like aliasing. It's actually not that low res texture. It's the fact that it's like 100% specular. So I forgot what was it? Yeah, the glossiness. Just pull the glossiness down a little bit, because the glossiness was almost at like 100. You just pull it down, or you just go and re-render you just re-export your maps, or just pull the smoothness down, and notice that craziness goes away. Now let me get out of ISO mode. Whoop, there we go. Perspective. That was kind of cool. We'll do that one more time. Difference between perspective distortion and isometric. So, anyway, I've got my object. If I click on it, it's this cube, and then you can. Now, this material and these textures are all external files. You can use them in other Unity scenes, and you can use them in Sketchfab. And this still happens to be a pro builder, but you just go in and you just export out an OBJ or what have you. One thing I forgot to note, I already did. In the beginning of the video, they say go to Edit Preferences, Pro Builder here. Experimental features and meshes or assets. This needs to be turned on. I just saw that because when I was in Pro Builder Tools, export this asset. That reminded me. But when you watch the video, and I'm going to say watch the video before going through my video, you will get something like this. And there's a quick way to finish up your textures and redo any geo they have issues with. And when you rebuild your level in your rooms, you can work in a modular way, like a staircase or a section of a wall. You don't need all the walls. You can take a section of a wall, like a 10 foot by 10 foot, just duplicate, get a nice texture, duplicate it out. Or as I see here, this actually kind of qualifies for a large prop. And I just kind of hammered it out. And if I pop back, again, at the end of the day, you'll be able to put it to Sketchfab. I'll show you this later. I don't need to show you it now. But you just need the external files. You need the texture files. You need the FBX file. So that was this video, SureForge plus Pro Builder. And then I'm going to ask you to do this one. It's just texturing a basic door. So I mean, you can just drag in a cube, or you just can make the door quickly in UModeler, Pro Builder. It doesn't matter. And then it shows you I can get very elaborate assets, models, and this is just a very light geometry. So I'm going to ask you to watch these two videos so that you can kind of get a good head start on this week, and that means like wrapping up. Let's just get the room and the arc feature. That's what I'm aiming for this coming week. Let's get the room and the architecture features, like really nice shape, and then you can just spend the rest of the time on your large props. All right, thanks.